Make-up Zoom meeting for the Lower Makefield Historical Commission on September 21st. We did have some issues with our September 14th meeting, so we're starting over. There's going to be people joining a little later and a little, as they come in, they will be welcomed into the meeting. There's a lot of things going on, so we need to kind of finalize the event that is happening on Saturday, September 26th at Slate Hill Cemetery. We are having a program that's going to be run by the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, to honor the Civil War soldiers, to give them a burial with their tombstone, etc. There's a whole ceremony that veterans do for that, and they're going to be doing that. And then we're going to have some politicians give some speeches and this ceremony, and it should be over about 45-minute ceremony. And then the Historic Commission would invite people to go to each of the 6 graves of the 6 soldiers being honored and hear a little bit, probably from a reenactor, about the particular person who's buried in that tombstone and under that tombstone, and not only their life before the war, during the war, and then after the war. So that's the plan for Saturday. People can stay as shortly or as long as they wish, but it should take about an hour and a half total to do the entire cemetery. Okay, so we need to approve the minutes of the meeting in July and August. There was no formal meeting, so it's the minutes of July. Can I have a motion from someone to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from July.
Becky is seconding the minutes. Becky, are you?
I muted. Yeah, I'm taking notes.
Okay, that would be awesome if you would please take notes.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone in favor to approve the minutes as we submitted to everybody on the board. Thank you. Okay. All right. There was some confusion over our treasury report and our accounts. Eric's, I think, who's the treasurer?
I think you told me I am now.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So we thought we had money in the community fund, and I was concerned. So I contacted Krista, and she came over and presented me with this entire folder with every check that she ever received from the Historical Commission, copied, and when the deposits were made. And I guess Kristen and Tyler did a lot of the deposits. So I still don't know how that's turned out. I think I turned it into the township last Monday, and hopefully they will figure out what we have and what we have as a budget every year as well. She didn't seem to know that there was a budget, but every committee has some kind of budget for education and publications. So I know we had one, and Kurt has let me know that we have $500 per cycle. So that's good news. And we are basically using a bit of that, both on the, we had already bought the canopy, and then we put some in for print for the posters. And the balance is probably going to go with Lisa Gage to help her pay for a video that will then go up on the township's website. So Fred, maybe you could speak to.
The board agreed to the donation. So I know Lisa sent you an invoice. So if you would forward that to the township, she'll be able to get paid.
That would be good. I have an invoice for the posters because I paid for them, so I will submit that as well if I have a motion from you guys to pay those bills.
Motion to pay the bills.
Second. Thank you, Becky.
Is the video
done? Everybody in favor of paying bills? You can raise your hand. Thank you.
Is the video done already?
No, yeah, the video's on right now.
Okay.
So the issue also is if we want to spend more money in contacting the veterans. Of course, they have all kinds of suggestions for how this is going to go about. They apparently have solicited a contribution from a video public address system. so that they're donating their time and their equipment to actually bring a microphone, etc. I have to bring a stand for the microphone, but other than that, I've got a stand that I will bring. And so they're going to set up and do that. They are worried about chairs. I hadn't even thought about chairs. I have 5 nice wooden chairs they're very light. But I don't know. Does anybody have any thoughts about chairs?
Well, where is the actual ceremony going to take place? Because that's what I was saying. My concern about distancing is if we're all congregating in one area.
Yeah, well, the site we sort of picked out was in the Quaker section, sort of dead center in between the segregated public section and the old section. So right in that center where there's a big open wide space by the wall. So we were thinking to put the canopy up sort of against the traffic and then have people speaking toward the field. So people could spread out in that field. People could be in the public sector. There's 6, the tombstones are fairly widespread in that field. So people could basically go to a tombstone and we could have scouts and escort groups if it looks like there's too many people in one place. But the chairs issue is something else. If there's some seniors and they're there to hear the speakers, they suggested that we rent chairs, and that just seems like crazy talk. But I don't know, Fred, do you think that there's anything at the Public Works that could help us, or I don't know?
We have plenty of chairs. It's just a matter of coordinating with the township to put them up. So, it's Monday. We need somebody to do that on Saturday. And so you're going to need to talk to Kurt and ask him if that can be done.
Is that something the scouts could help with?
Yeah, I'm sure there'd be plenty of people to help with putting them up, but then we've got to pay someone from the township to truck them there and load the truck and do that. So that's the issue, I guess. I can ask Greg Huckelbridge too. I don't know who would be Kurt.
Yeah, you would have to ask Kurt. This is a logistics issue. I
don't think we need more than 20, 30 tops, but yeah.
I understand. I'll give him a call tomorrow.
Oh, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you, Fred.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we get them, we get them. And if not, I guess it should be warm, sunny day. So hopefully it won't be too horrible to stand. As I said, the program itself is about 45 minutes from beginning to end, counting 5 minutes for each speaker. So we hope that they keep it to a minimum. And then, as I said, the program should direct people to go to each of the 6 tombstones. So, and do it in turn. So the readers are going to read the blurb about each soldier 6 times.
Okay. Do we have an idea, like how many people, like, has anyone other than the speakers, we just have no idea how many people might come?
No. And I would expect most people to stand in distance, as you said, because we are recommending everybody wear masks and do social distancing, even though, you could do one or the other. I prefer they do both. So we'll see what happens.
So do you have 6 reenactors to be the speakers?
I think the readers get at least, I hope we will get at least 6. Yeah.
Okay.
The African American Museum people seem to be wanting to come too. Right. So I think that would be really interesting. I know kids are coming, so I don't know. We'll see. My husband doesn't think we'll get more than 100, but that's his opinion. We are putting out posters and getting good feedback from the Edgewood Village, the Edgewood Cafe person was like, "Oh, this is so pretty," and she really liked it. So that was cool. But they haven't been put out too densely in Yardley yet. That's the last place. We're going to do that tomorrow, Matthias and I. But other than that, everywhere else is pretty saturated. We put them some on telephone poles, some on in stores, and various places that would accept them.
Okay. What time do you want us to be there?
I think if you could get there by 12, that would be great.
Okay, because I have the canopy, but I've never even opened it up or anything. I don't know how to set that up or any of that stuff.
Yeah, we'll get people to help with that. I know Josh Johnson is planning to be there around 11. So, I was figuring go down around 11:30 and start helping to set up. I have to bring the stand and, some various other stuff. The other interesting conundrum is water. I think we had talked about getting water. I know various organizations will probably donate. If we can get them to donate, if we can ask them. At one point, I don't know if it's still true, but you used to be able to get Gatorade from McDonald's if you had one of their orange coolers. And I know we have one of those orange coolers around somewhere. If someone wants to head down to McDonald's and ask them if they do that, it's not exactly the healthiest drink in the world, but
Did they sell Gatorade at McDonald's?
They used to provide that. This was from doing socials at church, and as long as you had the orange cooler from McDonald's, they would fill it for you. But I don't know if it's been a long time since I tried that. But I mean, I know people have been asking. BJ's apparently donated money when we were doing the tombstone, or donated water when we were doing the tombstone installation. So possibly somebody can go to. I will contact the vets to kind of check on that too. And the American Legion, we're looking for something to do, so we could hand that off to them as well. So let me see. Programs, it's still going. Okay, we're doing that. Programs will probably be finalized by Wednesday. Becky, thank you for looking at it. My husband texted me like, Helen, they're all wrong. You sent the wrong file. So hopefully, whoops, it looks better in the file that is
the one that you sent earlier today. Yeah,
the inside is all wrong on the margins, and it's got stuff on it that shouldn't be there. So yeah. Okay. So the outside cover was the one that is okay, but
okay, I'll have to look. I haven't had a chance.
So don't worry about it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
If it looks terrible, it's probably been fixed. Josh sent me some corrections for the correct one. I haven't heard from the commander yet, so I sent it to Josh John. He's good at doing those sort of things. He's the guy that filled out the forms with me. And then the commander, because he wanted to see it. And then I sent it to Stephen and you. So you four are my readers. So if you see something egregious, let me know. Other than that, I still have to do the blurbs, but I have them pretty well already done. So it's not I'll send you the final copy before I hand them out for the readers. Okay. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Becky. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Let me see. Everybody else, and let me see. Barbara Nuzolo and her friend Ann Damron are doing the flowers on Wednesday. And they did not get any cooperation from the garden club. I don't know what happened. They weren't getting emails back. So they went out and bought some themselves. So that's probably another little expense that we're going to have to front. And I don't know what she said, like $25. So if we don't want to do that, I'll just chip it in. But the Barbara Nuzlo and Ann went out and bought some chrysanthemums. One soldier's grave's already done, so it's only 5 graves that really needed covering. I am going to have to go buy pillowcases, but I'll use them. So I'll just buy them and wash them and reuse them myself. So, and the veterans have asked for navy blue. If anybody knows where navy blue pillowcases can be found, let me know. That's on my list of things to do.
I'll just look at Kohl's or one of those places. Probably have them. Yeah.
Walmart, probably. But anyway.
Target, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't think navy blue is going to be a problem, but you never know. I don't have any table or layout. Sometimes people want to see something like that. Do we want that or not?
A table?
programs. I don't know. It's just somebody said, "Oh, are you having a table? Do you want a nice tablecloth?" And I was like,
I think we had talked about that, but I don't know what we need to put on a table.
I'll talk to Barbara when she comes in. Maybe she'll have suggestions.
I have a couple tables that we could use.
I was thinking a table makes more sense by the entrances, personally. I mean, just so you can hand a program to people and talk. But instead, then you have something behind, between you and they as they're coming in as well. Because we're going to try to get the kids, especially the scouts, to move people around. That's what I was thinking.
Right.
To get them to move people into groups.
It might help if you're going to when you give out the programs. Do we have any of those extra other brochures that we gave out at the, when we did the, cemetery tours a couple years ago, that are about the general, kind of about the township and.
No, I don't have any of those. I don't know. Maybe they're at the township building.
Yeah, I thought Krista. You might want to ask Krista because I thought she had a bunch of those. Because we might as well just give them out.
Fred, if you want to ask Kurt if he has programs from the old cemetery tour, we could have those on tables.
They're like the historic houses thing. That booklet.
Oh, we have that. I have that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I meant. Really, is that booklet? Like, is if you want to give them away or sell them?
We certainly could have a donations jar or something. That would be nice because we certainly would like more donations.
Yeah,
a couple of the stones are really in bad shape and need standing up, especially hills. That's going to collapse if it's left the way it is.
Right. Helen, I have 2 tables for you. I have one for each entrance. They're just
that'd be awesome, Becky. Okay.
So I think this is what I think I'm going to do because I have like a SUV. I will come. You said somebody's going to be there by 11 or something.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to come and drop off the canopy in those 2 tables. And then I'm going to go home because then I'll probably just walk over. Well, I guess I'm going to, because I don't want to have my car. I live so close because I don't know, is there going to be enough parking for people or,
Good.
And then I guess later my husband could always drive it over and we could just take the stuff home. But I think in that way I can help with setup, but then I might, because my aunt's coming that day too. And I wanted to see her. So, all right. Sorry. But yeah,
that's fine. Everybody has different things that they have to get to. I have a birthday party at 5:00, so for a 5-year-old, so I've got to be there. So it's one of those things. We just do what we can do.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so let me see. Anything else that we need to think about for that? As I said, we need thank yous for a lot of people when it's done. The Wells Fargo should get a thank you right away for at least offering their parking. Certainly McCaffrey's. I would send a note to Greg Hucklebridge because he's been so good about he's getting it mowed again, and he's been really good about taking care of the trees that came down. Probably a note to the police chief if he does anything, so whatever happens, we'll just sort of keep a running tab of who's gonna have to have a nice thank you note. All right, so that is kind of my conclusion on Slate Hill Cemetery, except Barbara, when she comes in, we're going to have to work with the various VIPs because I'm giving her that job. She's handling the VIPs.
She's doing great.
Yeah, because she's good at that. That would be perfect. And she's going to announce when it starts to try to gather people together. So I want Barbara to be the face of the commission and do that. That's possible. Okay. There was a meeting with the Historical Society last week.
Helen, just a quick question. Are you going to somehow put out the program on social media beforehand so people can see what's happening and who's speaking and things?
Ooh. You know what? I'll put it up on the Lower Makefield history page for sure. Yeah. And then which I guess Lower Makefield is a great place to live, and I'll send one to the administrator at the township to put it up. But to Barbara, is that who I send it to, Fred?
Send it to Barbara and send it to Monica.
Okay, that's great. I'll send one to each of them, and that'll go up. Okay, good suggestion, Joe. Thank you. Anything else that we need to think about for this?
I think a lot's already been done. Sounds like a lot's already been done.
We've had enough time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're under control. I really think it's pretty good. I think we're pretty under control. All right. The next is the Historical Society. So Historical Society met on, I can't even remember now what night it was, Monday or Tuesday. I know it was Wednesday because it was the same night as the Board of Supervisors. So I didn't get to watch the Board of Supervisors meeting. Oh, well. So I went to that, and unfortunately, I and Donna Doan, who also showed up, were the only people speaking against the merger with Yardley. Everyone else, including the other Nuzlo, Sandy Nuzlo, felt like it was it's a good thing to pool resources, and I get that. It really looks like it's a good thing to pool resources, but it then limits their usefulness to the township as a 501c3 of the township, because then when you go, especially if you go for a state grant, so if they want to do a state grant to, and Susan Taylor, who's of the Yardley group, really is interested in doing archiving of all of their collection. I don't really know what their collection is, but if it's like our collection, it's really not much that needs a lot of archiving. We have a lot of duplication of things, and if anything, it's more of a culling. So she wants to go for a grant to do the archiving of their collection. Then it becomes an issue, where do you store the archived materials? And of course, they want to use the old library, but the old library is not A, secure, B, doesn't have temperature control, all the things that archives need. So I've always thought, and this is my opinion, not anyone else's, that it makes much more sense if you've got any original material to put it in the Bucks County Historical Society, where they can do a proper job. And if you don't, then you run the risk of A, losing it, having it stolen, strayed, missing at some point. If it's put into the Historical Society, having worked there, I know they have the temperature controls, they have the freon gas, they have all the stuff, the fire prevention, everything that's necessary to keep anything that's important. As far as I know, the only collection that they have are the postcard collection of sites of Yardley, and they have a few family photographs, but a lot of them should be in the Bucks County Historical Society, possibly with duplicates kept in the library. And that doesn't need extensive storage. So I hate to see it, but it looks like all of our funds from the Lower Makefield Historical Society are going to be going toward an archiving project, at least in the near future. And then what they're later want to do with that money is apparently spread it around Lower Bucks County. So when I say, well, it's Lower Makefield money and I think it should be spent in Lower Makefield, they said, oh, well, we disagree. We could be spent wherever we want to put it. So it was not a positive meeting, generally, I would say. And if we're looking for them to help fund some historic house in Lower Makefield, my feeling of that board is that they are not interested in helping any township project. And I was suggesting the Slack House. I was suggesting, of course, Patterson Farm, but I was suggesting other things like the Octagonal Schoolhouse project, where someone should really encourage the supervisors to get that property by condemnation, or just the fact that it's in the public right of way, and do something about that particular structure. Or what's left of that structure in terms of archaeology, and then in terms of rebuilding. But they did not seem to be interested. And in fact, they're extremely worried that it's only the 5 or 6 people that were at the meeting that are ever going to show up again to a historical meeting, that history's out of favor. And,
are the only people against it the ones, from the Lower Makefield Historical Society? Well, no, I guess what I'm thinking is, it shouldn't be all for one. It should be together. So if Lower Makefield does something for Yardley, then Yardley does something for Lower Makefield. We pool the money. so it shouldn't be just the archives for Yardley. It should be, and honestly, Lower Makefield's bigger, so there might be more. It's almost like there's a bigger percentage, but go ahead. What?
No. The other thing that they did make very clear is that the building that they own is permanently attached to the deed and to some kind of foundation that is going to forever preserve that building. So basically, they will not be touching that money. That money to preserve that building in perpetuity is there, and that will never disappear.
That's
so our money is the money that's going to be disappearing.
Right. So but that's the old library you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if they're going to use our money, then there should be something for Lower Makefield. That doesn't make sense. But nobody said that, or? No, it was definitely me trying to beg for money for Lower Makefield and our projects and saying, look, we're putting out fires here. The houses are falling down. There's nobody to work on them. There's the other 501c3, which is the Patterson Farm Group. But other than that, there's no way that the township, and this is something that Terry Fedorchak used to do. He used to kind of funnel, instead of having the township spend the money on the projects, he'd have the 501c3s get the grants from the state for restoration and even use the historical commission for that, and then had them administer the grants with the township supervising how the money was being spent and making sure that it was going to the proper people with proper bids and doing. So it was one less thing for the township board of supervisors to have to worry about on a mini management basis, because these commissions and 501c3s would do that work. Mm-hmm. And then they wouldn't have to be left worrying about paint colors and things like that we used to argue about in our groups. So it kind of worked out for a long time, but now it's getting harder to get the grant money, A, and B, if you've got a 501c3 that's split between two municipalities and you're trying to get supervision of that grant money, and you've got to get Yardley Borough as well as the Lower Makefield Board of Supervisors to sign off on a project that you want to supervise, that's just not going to happen. I mean, I would hope it would, but I know these two boards, and I kind of doubt that both of them would agree with that, to sign off. It would be nice, but, until Yardley decides to pull back on its secession from Lower Makefield and rejoin Lower Makefield Township and not have duplication of services, I don't see that happening. When are they making a decision by?
I think they're going to put it to their members, and there was a lot of complaint from the members that they wanted to open it to the membership and have the membership board vote. But to tell you the truth, I didn't stay at the meeting past a certain time, so I don't know how it ended up. So at this point, and there's no way to actually look. They were taping it, but there's nowhere to. I looked at their website; nothing's posted, so I don't know what happened at the end of the meeting.
Who's on the board? Who's on the board from Lower Make, or who's on the board of the Lower Makefield Township Historical Society that needs to approve this?
Well, there's the board of directors is Jennifer Stark and Sandy Nuslow and Christine Anderson.
Joyce.
And there's one other.
Joyce Anderson.
Joyce Anderson, yes, yeah. And one other, and I can't remember her name or his name. I think it's Michael. I think it's Jennifer's husband is on the board also. There's like 4 board members and trustees that were there at that meeting. So it was interesting. And then Susan Taylor from Yardley was there as representing Yardley, and there were a couple of other members from the Yardley Historical Society in the Zoom meeting, but they were the ones from Lower Makefield. And I'd worked with Sandy Nuslow before when I was on the Historical Society, and she was fine. But they're all kind of looking at we're no one else is coming to meetings, no one else is joining us, so we have to make some decisions that seem to be safest. I was trying to encourage them to basically partner with the 501c3 for the Patterson Farm Group and they have use of the old chapel at Edgewood, which is a larger building. They would be able to attract more crowds into that building. They could have better programs at that building. It's more centrally located. There's better parking. The place, the problem with the library in Yardley is they do not own the parking lot. The parking lot is owned by St. Andrew's Church. And if they're having any kind of meeting or something, that parking lot is full. Next to it on the other side is owned by Cam Trilo. What a surprise. He owns the rest of the pond all the way up to the Starbucks. So if he ever wants to fill it in, he can. I mean, that's the way that thing is configured. If you look at the tax map, it's pretty interesting. So they are literally just the building. So parking is always an issue.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. And it's small. It's very small.
And inside, yeah, it's not a large space. It's very uncomfortable if you have more than 20 people in there.
Mm-hmm. I know I gave a presentation to over 100 and it was not, there was standing room in the back.
Yeah,
But anyway.
that's awesome, Becky.
Yeah, it was.
But I remember historical society meetings back in the 80s and 90s where there would easily be 100 people. We were meeting in the library. The library cut off giving us that as a meeting room. And we were given the Historical Society was given the old schoolmaster's house, which is on the Langhorne Road, by the Board of Supervisors to do just what I was talking about. They applied for the grant from the PHMC. The township said they would supervise it. So they got the grant when they had the township signing off on it. And then they appointed a board of the Lower Makefield Historical Society to basically supervise the construction and get the house stabilized. And we did that. And then we got to the point where then we were trying to figure out how to put an addition on the house so we could have a meeting because the room was too small. It was a fireplace and basically 20 feet. And then that was it. And there was an upstairs, but it was just too small. And the neighbors were starting to complain about us having meetings there. So rather than see the group split apart then, we decided to sell it. And that money that we made, which was upward of $80,000 on selling that house and lot, went to a private individual who then added a house next to it and cut in, basically joined in. We did a facade dedication of the old structure that we had saved using state money. And then that went back on the tax roll. So we found it was kind of a win-win. And the money was then banked. So the money has been accruing in interest and it's up to about 125, 130,000. And
Right.
now that's what the issue is. So
Right.
I hate to be fighting about money, but that's what the issue is. And that could go a long way if they even matched this commission saying, we want to help paint the Patterson farmhouse. How about if we get a matching grant from the Historical Society to help the Patterson Farm Group and we'll supervise it with the township's help. If we could do that, that money could be spent over 5 or 6 projects in Lower Makefield that would be more useful, but
Right.
that's where we are.
So when the societies join, have they discussed the new bylaws? I mean, how are the positions going to be divided between Yardley and Lower Makefield?
They said that anybody who was a member of the Historical Society would be automatically a member of this new joint Yardley area, Yardley area Historical Society. But the money would just be used by a new board and they would come up with new bylaws and it would be much more broad. So it can be educational, it can be whatever they want to put that money in. So that's the issue. I mean, we redid the bylaws for Lower Makefield Historical Society in, I think, 1990, because there were issues about how many people were on the board and how many people were disagreeing about what we were going to do with the schoolmaster's house. And it did split the group a lot over that. It's just human nature. Mm-hmm. Nobody has the same opinion. And especially when the neighbors were getting involved, it was kind of time to back out. And that's what we did. And I kind of knew that was going to be a bad thing if we didn't get another project. And unfortunately, we didn't agree on another project. Supervisors changed. we had several boards that just were not interested at all in history, and just were not interested at all in helping the group or have the group work with them. So that's sort of what happened. It's kind of Jeff Marshall used to say that historical societies have a 25-year life and then they're gone. And maybe that's true. It's time that things change, but this one, unfortunately, is not going to help us in Lower Makefield Township as a historical commission to foster a 501c3 that's doing historic preservation.
So what does that mean for us for future projects? Do we need another 501c3? Do we use Patterson Farm?
No, that's it. If someone donates to the Historic Commission, they're donating to the township.
No, I understand that. Yeah, so we can't.
Yeah, so the 501c3, it's better to be a 501c3 because then people can take it off their taxes.
Right.
And developers like Troilo, etc., could donate a building to a 501c3.
Right.
He certainly doesn't want to donate it to the township because he's not going to get the tax breaks.
But
so it's the beast. It's the way that things are structured. So, in
Lower Makefield, do we need someone to form another 501c3, or could we just use Patterson Farm then as the 501c3 for doing the historical work?
Yeah, it says it's doing that, but unfortunately, the people that are on that board, there's a split there over, are we doing just Patterson Farm, or are we trying to improve historic preservation all over the township? And that's kind of my side of it. But I'm trying to say, we need to kind of broaden the Patterson Farm group's basically the way that that's structured, so that we're helping the township out more than just the Patterson Farm, because the preservation is I agree with you, Joe. I mean, that's it. It's a wider thing. And by losing this 501c3, the township it's a big deal. It really is. At least to me, it is. Mm-hmm. Hi, Eric. Sorry.
I'm not clear on what our
next...
No
worries. Sorry, I was a little late. I thought we were starting at 5:30.
Yeah, it said that on one. So, what are our next steps on this, Helen? Because we've gone over this a zillion times, and we keep going.
I know. You're a woman of action. I don't know what to say. I think we really need to meet with our township manager and come up with some strategies. I really do. I think that would be the best. Fred, maybe you could make him aware of that would be the best thing to do. And if we can help expedite a 501c3 that does that, that would be the best way to move.
Right.
I can tell you right now that the township will have no interest in forming any 501c3s. If the Lower Makefield Historical Society is a separate organization, has no relationship to the township, and no direct relationship to the township at this point. So if they wish to merge, the township is neutral. And it's up to the two organizations to do what they want to do. If the historical society, if the new historical society wants to work with the township to do something, and of course it can petition to do something, but that, we can't anticipate what's going to be done. As far as the Historic Commission is concerned, you guys can work with whoever and serve as a interface between the township and that organization to, better improve the historical structures in the township.
So do we oversee both Lower Makefield and Yardley as an historical commission? And they don't have one?
You serve as an advisory board to the board, advisory committee to the board, and, have your ears and eyes open to the community at large and bring to the board of supervisors anything that you feel is needed to improve the historical structures or the historical situation of the township. So
this doesn't fall under that jurisdiction, basically, is what you're saying.
Well, the new organization, if the two organizations combine and they wish to do something in Lower Makefield, they're going to work with the Historic Commission, and you're going to work with us. And we're going to, as our advisory board, to find a way forward. But the Board of Supervisors' job is to set policy, but you guys are the advisory group that will help set the policies. So,
Thank you, Fred. That was
because I guess I'm just trying to clarify, Helen, too, like what you really want to do and what we should do as an historical commission, because we keep talking about this, but we're not, and I don't mean to like downplay it, but I just, I'm just curious what our next steps are, and if anything, or we just have to let it go,
Well, I think with the Lower Makefield Yardley, right? I mean, if the people in the Historical Society from Lower Makefield are pushing this forward, I don't know how we block it, right? I think though going forward for us, I see two options. I mean, either meet with Patterson Farm and ask them to expand their charter to be, broader than just Patterson Farm. And it's up to their board to say yes or no, or we somehow, promote or encourage the creation of another 501c3 that's focused just on historical preservation in Lower Makefield Township. I mean, Helen, are there other possibilities?
The only other 501c3 that I know of is the 5 Mile Woods group. But yeah, that's always a possibility down the road. But I think, as to Becky's point, at this point, yeah, we have to let them do their thing and whatever they're deciding to vote on and do, and kind of take it off our agenda for a while and see if they make a decision at some point to come back and do a project, or suggest to them some projects that they might help us with. But basically, no, this doesn't look like we've got too much support on that. And Fred is correct. Our job is to basically help educate our supervisors as to matters of state importance of historic structures, and to help educate our citizens on history of the region, and do as much as we can to promote that in every way. Now, at one point, the Historical Society, that was their mission too. And there was a lot of educational stuff done, including the maps and booklets and all kinds of things. And sometimes it was the same people that were also on the commission. So it has been like that all the way along. So on that issue, I guess we can move to the next item of business, which is not on our agenda, but is something that we really need to talk about, is the Prickett development, and the Wegmans is going in. It has been sent to us. I tried to forward it to all of you. I hope you've got it. It's a whole series of different maps and different applications and all kinds of things relevant to the proposed new development. And when a developer comes in, they ask for the moon, and usually every board will send to the supervisors a suggestion on how this can be toned back a little bit, or what they need to look at, etc. But in the interest of that, I was disturbed when I saw their application to the State Historic Preservation Office, and it was just a blank application, and it had gone in really early, like February, and there was no succeeding documents on it. So I put in a phone call to them, and I didn't get anybody. Of course, you get voicemails everywhere. And I just left a message that we were concerned that, it was a historic structure, and they only mentioned that there was one historic building on the property, and that the other building was a brick and frame barn that was 1 story, but it was 35 feet high. And I said, that's just inaccurate. That's not true. And we need to talk to somebody at the state. And then I got this letter back, or I got this call back this morning after 3 calls this weekend. I didn't even notice. And then suddenly got a call back from the director for the Eastern region. And she said, we sent a letter in March to the developer to tell him that his application was inadequate. And then we were requesting a stage 1 archaeological archaeological assessment for the entire property historic, because we have it on our list as eligible for National Register and eligible for agricultural register. So we would object to any use that is not agricultural. I thought, well, the ship has sailed on that one, but basically, because it's private property. So the SHPOs has limited control over what happens to private property, even something that they consider a National Register property. But it might have made a difference in the meetings in the township if the township had known about that. So I am concerned that the township was not informed. Then it sent the letter to the engineer for the developer, and it didn't say it was copied to the township. So there may be something going on there that it didn't actually get read.
He sent something out at 5:21.
Right. So Jim, as you see, just sent us a email, and you probably didn't have time to read it because it was just sent before the beginning of the meeting. The township walked with the developer the site today, and they approved. They said they will be doing a phase 1 archaeological study, a survey, an archaeological survey, and the root cellar that was in front of the house will not be disturbed by the project. The outhouse is no longer on the property. It hasn't been since at least 2007, and they will meet. They're willing to meet with the Historic Commission to walk the site and go over things. So you might want to consider meeting with the developer, walking the site, talking about your concerns, and see if we can move things along in a more positive way.
That's very good news, Fred. That's really very good news, because that's the best we can hope. And of course, what we'll be asking for, I had thought at least 20 feet, but my husband's telling me, no, you need 50 feet from a structure. We'll see, how we can negotiate with them, and certainly try to work with them as smoothly as possible in trying to preserve as much of that site as possible, since it clearly was there during Washington's tenure walking up O'Neill Road. And there's other evidence from other adjacent farms that probably the cavalry and the artillery was in Lower Makefield Township, which is awesome stuff. So, it'd be good to meet with them. Thank you, Fred. That's awesome. Okay, so I hope I'll send an email back to Jim and ask him when we can set up a meeting, and I'll let you guys all know so that you come to that meeting too. And because your observations are valuable, and anything you want to say, you'll be able to put it in. What else do we have? It was just, that's interesting. Okay, we still have on the agenda the long-range goals for property assessments. I haven't seen those, so I'd really like to meet with Kurt and go over that stuff as well. Joe had asked me about long-range, actually looking at our historic properties as a potential for his course he's taking at Bucks on historic preservation. And I had mentioned the old barn foundation at the Kids Kingdom, which years ago somebody had looked at as a potential for using as a gathering place near the playground and the ball fields, etc. So, there's lots of other structures in the township that probably Kurt is not aware of that we would be interested in sharing with him. Joe, do you have anything to say about that?
No, I mean, we talked the potential for looking at that project, but I also wanted to kind of follow up with your email where we were talking about exactly the whole list of potential projects. And my question to you was, what should we be doing? I mean, you mentioned about doing the research. Now, my question was, to what end are we doing the research? What do we want to do with the work when it's done?
What do we want? I'm not
sure.
So
you sent an email and talked about a number of properties and encouraged us to start doing research around those properties.
Yeah.
And my question on the email was, to what end are we doing the research? What are we going to do with that when it's done?
For assessment or just to research?
No, just in general, the research of the properties that you mentioned.
Well, it is more the more we know, the more that we can help with the properties that are left, and particularly the properties that the township has control over. Okay. So anything that the township has control over, knowing the history of those things can only benefit the supervisors.
Right.
If we advise them of what the things are. Right. And there's others that just have fallen through the cracks lately, right, that we should certainly start looking at to help them. There's the little spring house up at the Wiesner Estate. Right. The 5 Mile Woods house is always an issue. There's the little Huff House in Edgewood Village that the township actually controls for, I don't know how many years are left on the 100-year lease, but there's other stuff. And of course, we're also meant to help them out with when developers come in with plans, like Prickett, like Troilo, when he comes in with plans. There's structures in that historic village that we can assist the HARB with the history part. They're looking at the architecture part, but we're supposed to be looking and researching the history part. So there's a lot of stuff to do, and and I know that you're really interested in doing that. So that's awesome. To actually go ahead.
So maybe what we should do is get a list together, right? So we have a list of here are the structures that need, and then we could talk about the research. And
are you volunteering?
I will. So I will put together a list that you and I have been exchanging by emails. Okay. Super. And I'll circle that around, and you could look at it and say, yeah, that's a complete list or an incomplete list. We'll fill that out. And then we can start talking about what we currently have and what we don't have in terms of research.
Absolutely.
Okay? All right.
All right. I think that we've got some plans for the future, and I'll talk to Eric for a bit about the day, since you missed that. Eric, we really hope you're coming. Are you coming on Saturday?
Yeah, I'll be there, and whatever you need in terms of setup, I'm more than happy to do. So just let me know, what you need from me, and I guess whatever you guys discussed at the beginning of the call.
Okay, yeah. The biggest thing right now is whether we're going to have chairs or not have chairs, and water. Those are the two biggies that we still don't know. The day of, we're going to need help setting stuff up, and then kind of dividing, especially kids, scouts, etc., into groups so that they greet people and make sure that people are scattered around the cemetery. But anything that you could do to help with that would be awesome. So we're going to show up probably around 12 o'clock.
Okay.
Is that good?
Eric, I have the canopy too, which is still in the box, and I don't know what to do with it. So
all right, we'll figure it out.
It's got like the anchors inside and all, I think. So
okay.
This is.
Do you want me? Helen, do you want me to pick up?
My son-in-law's going to show up around 11. Yeah, if you could figure out a way to if you could figure out a way to get some donations of water from.
I can. I'll make the donation.
Oh, thanks, Eric. Whatever you can do would be great. And I'll ask Josh to do the same thing from the VFW post. So we'll get enough just in case. And especially if you get little bottles, it's better, because then they don't, it doesn't go to waste.
We need a garbage can there then too, or something, or recycling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so thank you so much for all showing up. And our next meeting will be in October. We've got it scheduled, I think, for early in October. and an early time. So I think a 5:00 time is what is scheduled for October. So thank you all, Fred. You're going to contact Kurt for us.
I'm sorry, say again? It's already been done. Kurt. It's already been done.
Awesome.
You'll hear from him soon.
All. So have a good evening.
Thanks,
I'll see you Saturday.
Good night.
See you Saturday.
Thanks, Helen.
Thanks, Helen. Bye.
Bye.